The Vapid Firebolt ASP is one of the best off-road vehicles in GTA 5 Online. However, it is quite expensive. So today I'm going to be showing you guys some vehicles that are similar to the Firebolt ASP but are much cheaper. So yeah, let's get into it. First of all, we got the Monstrosity. This thing will cost you $1,485,000 and this is a two-door lightweight compact off-roader. This thing is in the off-road category and it's all-wheel drive. The Monstrosity gets 50% of its power to the front and 50% of its power to the rear. This thing, also like the Firebolt ASP, has Imani tech, so it does get a missile lock-on jammer. It also has an additional option of a remote controlled unit, so if that's your thing, you can do it on the Monstrosity and not on the Firebolt ASP. With all the upgrades, the Monstrosity will cost you $2.2 to $2.3 million, which is much cheaper than the Firebolt ASP. It is also super controllable and nimble, making it much more agile than the Firebolt ASP. It also has a super good launch on-road and off-road and has really good acceleration. It's kinda crazy. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a really high top speed. Because of it being so light, it has incredibly good brakes and insane traction on-road and off-road. Because of this car's great performance, it's just outside the top 10 best off-roaders for top speed, and it's in the top 10 for the best off-roaders around a track in GTA, which is pretty cool. It also has a ton of unique customization, meaning that it'll be difficult for you to make identical cars to someone else, which is highly possible in the Firebolt ASP. There are some rare cases where this thing starts tipping, but this is mainly when you take too many sharp corners super fast. You can remove this issue by putting an underglow, a spoiler option, or lowering your suspension. This thing is also immune to bushes, meaning that usually most cars when they hit a bush, they either slow down or spin out. The Monstrosity just doesn't get affected by it. This thing also has a ton of torque, making it climb super easily, and if you even stop on a steep slope by crashing, etc., because of this thing's great grip and torque, this thing is going to start climbing again with no problem. Definitely buy the Monstrosity. It is a super good cheaper alternative for the ASP. Next up, we got the Yosemite 1500. This thing will cost you $1,205,000 and it's a two-door lightweight pickup truck. This thing is also in the off-road category and it's all-wheel drive, meaning that 50% of its power goes to the front and 50% of its power goes to the rear. This car doesn't have Imani tech, so thank you Rockstar, we appreciate it for real. It is a super grippy and controllable vehicle, and it has a really good launch on-road and off-road. Unfortunately, this thing has an average acceleration and not the greatest top speed. It also has incredibly good brakes and insane traction on-road and off-road. It is an average performing truck compared to the other off-roaders in the game. This thing also has extremely questionable customization, so if you like making your dad's truck into a time attack build, you can. Like the other cars, you can put an underglow, spoiler, and lower your suspension to make the car perform better. This car also has really good torque, which makes it climb relatively quickly, and if you do stop on a steep slope, this thing is going to start climbing again because of its great grip and torque. However, it doesn't climb as good as the Monstrosity. One thing that's super good about this vehicle is that it doesn't tip because of its weight and its length, and it's immune to bushes, so you won't get slowed down or you won't spin out. Unfortunately, because it has a long length, it is less agile and chances of hitting things is much more, so just be a little careful. Definitely get the Yosemite 1500. It is a cheaper alternative for the ASP and you save around $1 million, which is insane. Next up, we got a much cheaper option, and that is the Desert Raid. This thing will cost you $695,000 and this is a two-door lightweight buggy looking thing. It is also in the off-road category and it's all-wheel drive, so it gets 50% of its power to the front and 50% of its power to the rear. This thing doesn't have any Imani tech either, so thank you Rockstar, you did cook a lot. It is super grippy and an agile vehicle, especially when it's off-roading. So grippy that you literally have to be careful because if you take too many sharp corners, it can just tip over because of its immense amount of grip, which is kinda insane. To resolve this issue, again, you can put an underglow or lowered suspension. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't have a spoiler option, so you can't increase its traction. This thing has a super good launch, really high acceleration, and a pretty decent top speed. It gets taken out from the top 10 best off-roaders around a track by the Monstrosity, and it's one of the best top speed off-roaders in the game. This thing is super good at going through dunes such as Insanity Shores, but it does struggle a little in close tracks such as the canyon. Now this thing is fast mainly because it is so low weight and not because of its power. Therefore this thing does struggle a lot when it comes to climbing, and it almost feels like a rear wheel drive car is climbing off-road. So this isn't the best car to use for climbing. This thing is also immune to bushes, so bushes won't slow you down or spin you out, so definitely get the Desert Raid. It's a much cheaper alternative to the ASP and it's incredibly good. Just before we continue with the video, I do want to say that 92.2% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So if you're finding this video useful, make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be posting a ton of content like this. So yeah, let's get back into the video. Last but not least, we got the Kamacho. This thing will cost you $345,000, which is so cheap for a truck like this. This thing is a 4-door heavy truck and it's also in the off-road category. This thing is also all-wheel drive, getting 50% of its power to the front and 50% of its power to the rear. This thing unfortunately doesn't have a MyTech again, so let's go. It is a super grippy car and controllable vehicle, however it is super weighty so it does understeer in some scenarios. It has a super good launch on-road and off-road, really good acceleration and a super high top speed. This thing is the 7th fastest off-roader around a track and the 7th fastest off-roader when it comes to top speed, which is insane. It is super good at climbing because of its power and doesn't have tipping issues because of its weight. It has pretty decent amount of customization for the price, and again it is also immune to bushes. Honestly, for the money, this is probably the best offer in the game, so if you want to get a cheaper alternative to the ASP, by a long shot, make sure to get the Kamacho. If you disagree with something on this list or you feel like there should be something else on this list, let me know by commenting down below.